Good morning, Miami. Welcome to another podcast of Wonder Women. Let me introduce you to a great friend of mine, Ninoska. She's an artist and also a journalist. She advocates for Cuban freedom. She's a wonderful person. I met her through Instagram as she's helped me with my foundation, and we have become great friends. So let me introduce you to my friend, Ninoska.
Such a pleasure being here and seeing you do this podcast.
Can you believe it?
I love it.
I got chills
I love it.
because I went onto your station and we did the.
She was so scared when she went there, and now look at her.
It's crazy. Who would have ever thought, right? So how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I bet you're very busy with everything that's going on.
Yes.
But before we get to that subject, because I know it's a very important subject to talk about, let's talk about you. You're Cuban. You came. How long ago you've been?
1959. My whole life has been here.
So you left right in that moment in time.
Right. First year, June of that year.
Wow. Did you come straight to Miami?
We went to Fort Lauderdale, and we lived in Fort Lauderdale for a little bit. And it was such a tiny,
I could
small little
imagine.
town, same as Miami, basically.
I imagine no roads. It was like
No, it
more
was
land,
fine, but it was
more
mostly the
lands.
beach, and it was a great town.
I remember when my parents lived in Enoris. I don't know if you remember those.
Northeast, yeah.
A lot of Cubans lived in Enoris, and it was close to Little Havana.
Mm-hmm.
And to get to the first Sedanos, it would take us at least 45 minutes to get there. So the roads were forever.
When I came, there were no Sedanos, nothing.
So you've seen it grow from what it was to what it is today.
To what it is today. Miami is such an amazing city, and I still remember when the courthouse was the tallest building.
Oh my gosh.
Cielito Lindo, they would call
Cielito
it.
Lindo. Yes, Cielito Lindo. My goodness. And now you look at the downtown area and all those buildings. You could be able to count the buildings, I feel.
Even Brickell. Brickell was just like old, beautiful houses. There were no tall buildings there. So,
Ninoska, how long before you got to painting, when you started this journey of yours, what were your plans? What was your first?
Well, first of all, I've always loved art. So I loved to design clothes. And first thing I had was a boutique in Coral Gables.
Oh, you did.
I had so much fun because it was like first it was on a side street, but then I finally made it to the Mile.
The Mile.
And it was awesome. I would go to Europe and bring stuff. It was a small boutique, and I love doing that. But then there was something in me, Cuba was always there. There were so many things happening, and I said, no, I have to do this, in a way that makes sense. So I went back. I got some journalist courses, and I said, no, I'm going into, and I went into radio, which was kind of a difficult area because most of the people in radio were men.
Oh my God, that's right.
They were very political, and that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do just any show. And there was an attorney, a great man, a mentor, Luis Fernandez, and he says, no, you're going to do it, and you're going to do fine, and I'm going to take you by the hand, and you're going to do, and he helped me along the way, and it was awesome.
It's incredible how people come to your life and they change your life. They help you become the person that you are today. The person that did that for me, he's a psychiatrist. His name is Juan Rene Geada. And he did that for me. And he says, you're gonna be fine. You need that one person that believed in you while you're like making those changes in life. Now, let me ask you the question, which I forgot to ask you. ¿De qué parte de Cuba tú eres?
De La Habana.
So you're from Havana?
From Havana. The most beautiful city in the world that I don't really know, but I was born there.
It is a beautiful city. All the stories and everything that Havana was, and people can't even imagine that there's like a replica of the White House in Havana.
You know that a lot of the Cuban American journalists that would go because they had to, they were working, And they would say, I'm going to Cuba. My parents always said it's the most beautiful sky, it's the most
Mhm.
beautiful beach.
Mhm.
And then they would come back and say it
It
was.
was. It is. I went there when I was 9 years old to see my brother and my sister, and it just has that essence and that love that the people have. It's like something that is born in you, and my parents gave it to me, and I wasn't even born there. So for me, I'm an American, but I'm a Cuban American. I feel muy cubana. I mean, you can't tell me que no soy cubana, like.
Jorge Mascanosa would say that Cubans that were born here were born because of an accident of history. I mean, your parents would not have chosen to come had it not been
But yes,
for what happened in Cuba.
yes, absolutely, yes. So tell me a little bit of how you started painting this beautiful Virgin, which is la patrona de Cuba, la Virgen de la Caridad.
Well, first of all, I went to Catholic schools all my life, so for me, the Virgin is a very central figure in my life, but it's also a very central figure in Cuba. You would see Cubans that were non-believers, but they still believe in La Caridad, in
Right.
whatever they call it, Cachita,
Cachitas.
Ochun, whatever. But for me, I've always loved art and I've painted, but about 15 or 16 years ago, I said, no, I'm going to take this seriously. So I did the show Cuba Nostalgia,
Yes.
and it
I
went
met you
so
there once.
it went so well that I said, no, I'm doing it as best as I can. And I opened the gallery in Little Havana. It's a studio, but I mean I don't paint there, but it's like to exhibit my
Which the
paintings.
studio is beautiful.
But it's a beautiful building because there's so many other artists there in
Yes.
Futurama. So it was right smack in the middle of Little Havana. My work is very much centered around Cuba. So it was a perfect place. And I've been there since, and I love it.
How many years have you been there?
16
Oh my
or
God.
15 or 16.
Well, I know a few artists from there. Your neighbor Chino. Yeah, Abelo y Medina.
Medina, all great artists.
All great Cuban artists. I think there's something about Cuban art that is so special. And I think one of the things that I love about your Virgen is her blue. I call it the Cuban blue.
Well, I'll tell you about blue. I have this saying that says the first color I learned to love was blue.
Mm.
Because it was the sea, it was, it was everything, the sky. It was, for me, blue is a very special color, but it reminds me very much of Cuba. Whatever, there's some things I remember, of course, but like I would have loved to know the city, but a lot of things I remember, El Malecón, the seawall, but blue is also the color of the Virgin.
Yes, it is. And I found it very interesting when I met you and you told me, which one do you want? You want the blue or the yellow? And I never, like, when you said that to me, it was a moment of like, oh my God, it's true. I see her blue, but a lot of people see her yellow. So there's a everybody sees her differently. And I find that very interesting. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, actually, traditionally, the cloak of the Virgin Mary is blue, but as in every culture, they can change the image of the Virgin. So for Cubans, yellow, for some reason, I have not come to know that yet, but for some reason yellow became the color. I think because of the sunflowers and so it became the color. Maybe it was also part of the Afro tradition, but it became the color. So a lot of people prefer or see her as a yellow. They dress in yellow on that day.
Yes, they
But
do.
I paint them,
You paint them
either
both.
way. My mom would say, I don't know what the Virgin will say about you changing her attire every time you paint one.
Well, I imagine it's how she touches you at that moment, right? So the way we met is very interesting. As you know, the foundation, I was invited to go to the Washington D.C. to walk in Congress regarding liver disease, and I was going the day of La Virgen, which is September 8th, correct? And you came to mind because I met you in Cuba Nostalgia. And my friend Tere Fernandez has one of yours. And I said, if I go and I'm walking, I have to take her with me. And this is the one I took with me. I printed it in every paper I left with Congress to talk about liver disease and liver cancer. And it was a calling. And then, not realizing it was the day of my godmother's birthday, which was crazy because it was the first person that I lost from liver disease.
So many things in your life come together through days. It's amazing. This is why I love that story when you told me.
And so I had to reach you because I needed to take her with me. And I take her wherever I go regarding my foundation. And today I wanted to present her because you were here, because I feel that that connection we had was so special. And I think it opened a friendship, a very special friendship. And I think even with my recent event, she has opened El Camino, what I say, the walk. And I just heard and I just thought of you. And I think what you're doing is beautiful, painting her and keeping her story alive here with us. And
I painted some other, like, I love to paint faces and things that remind me. I started painting women that I called habaneras, because I figured that they lived in a city that was so beautiful they had to have a lot of ornaments to make themselves more beautiful than their city. But for some reason, the Virgin keeps coming up. And throughout all these years that I've been painting her, I've had so many beautiful stories, like,
isn't that great?
That how it's become something of meaning to people. That's what I love about art. I don't like art just for, because it's what you have to collect or because it's what's trendy. I love art that means something to you.
Because it fills your heart.
And I've had so many stories that
I think it brings you peace. And let's go into the conversation that I want to start. You're doing something that is, you've been talking about Cuba for years and their stories and people's stories and what they have struggled and how much how many people here in Miami has been fighting for that freedom, right? And you're one of those people. I think you paint her also for your self energy to keep yourself, I want to say, cleanse, focus. I think that's one of the reasons, because you meet a lot of people and you hear terrible stories and you hear very successful stories. So tell me now, how do you feel from being in Little Havana for such a long time, seeing the process of the city grow, the Cuban people? What is your vision? What is your opinion? What you remember to where it's going now in today's time?
Well, first of all, I started with the Cuban American National Foundation, and I was there with Jorge Mascanosa. That was like the best education ever. It was a time when a lot of things were happening, and it was we had our own shortwave station to Cuba. We had the first program he said to me was, before we had the station, he says, I think we should be broadcasting to the Cuban soldiers fighting in Angola. And I said, what? What am I going to say? And we started broadcasting through all those people that were there. And I said, I better have something that at least makes them laugh or something. So I called Alvarez Guedes, the comedian.
Oh my God, no way.
And I said, Guillermo, can I use your jokes? So 2 days later, he walks into the studio with all his tapes, records, cassettes, everything. Says, here they are. Use whatever you want. And we would broadcast, in the jokes. Years later, I've spoken to people that were there and says, that was the happiest day. On Sundays, when you had so many of the jokes, that was our happiest day. But they did get the message. And at the foundation, we were able to help so many people. And we heard so many stories. Horrible things, like the tugboat that was sunk in the Bay of Havana. And we were able to disseminate all that information. Not that the press always listened. And right. I think the best example was the case of the tugboat, where they sunk a tugboat in the Bay of Havana. Children died. 72 people were on board and over 40 died. Some of them were 6 months old kids. The parents were holding their children tight, and they used hoses so powerful that the children flew off their embrace. And at that time, I thought this was the most horrible thing. You think that the Castro regime had committed every crime, and then you would hear these stories. People came out and told us, the survivors. So I remember, reading the version of Cuba was that 72 people got on a tugboat, and the word was a bell, like it turned over like a bell. And that was the exact story of the New York Times, except the fact that they used the word stolen like 5 times in 3 little paragraphs. So I called this specialist in, boats and everything, and I said, can this happen? And he says, look, those are very stable boats, but 72 people cannot get at one time on a boat. You understand? So, and then we heard those stories, and it was horrible. So we kept, hammering, and then 4 years passed, and the Pope went to Cuba.
I know.
And Ted Koppel was doing the story of was doing stories. They wanted to do different stories, and I kept saying, do the story of the tugboat. No, they're not going to talk. Yes, they will. Finally, they went into Cuba. They interviewed the survivors. They talked. When Ted Koppel, because that's what journalist integrity is about, when he stood in the Bay of Havana and said, this story happened 4 years ago, this crime. The American media did not listen. The Cubans in Miami protested. Yes, they protest a lot, but we didn't listen. That was it. I said, justice is done to the victims. And it's been a hard struggle because so many things happen in Cuba that, it's about, rum, Havana, cigars. No, it's not. It's a dictatorship that for 67 years has been killing, has been repressing, has been violating human rights.
Absolutely. And I feel that now, in Instagram, you see more people protesting, especially the young, right? The young adults, the ones that are going to college, that realize that they have nothing. I mean, they
no
could go
future.
To no future, no nothing. And now there's so many of them going on Instagram asking for help. Do you feel that we are listening enough?
I think the actual administration is listening enough.
Amen.
They have sanctioned a lot of these companies that are enriching themselves and denying the assistance the Cuban people need. This is not about limitations or embargoes placed by the administration. This is about 5-6 years ago. People were in the same condition as they are now. Or so worse. Now, the fact that Raul Castro was indicted on May 20th, yes, says a lot. And it says a lot not about the fact that he was indicted. It's our problem, it's Cuba, but those were American citizens that were killed in international airspace. This is not only our problem. This is a foreign country, which is a threat to the security of the United States, that killed American citizens in international airspace.
Which we have to say, those individuals were
Brothers to the Rescue, which were doing humanitarian missions. Right. Cuba claims, no, they had violated airspace. Make them land, but you do not pulverize, which is what they did with
they were helping
MiGs in international airspace.
They were helping all these people that were looking for freedom, and they were coming in boats, but they're not boats, they're balsas, things that they would make. Rafts to be able to come to this country and look for the American dream.
And then you have freedom. A movie like The Wasp Network, which is such a horrible movie that paints the victims that are here in Miami as the bad guys, and the spies in Cuba responsible for the killing of American citizens as the good guys. Wow. So this is what we have to battle with every day.
And you're battling every day, and you're always on the radio Which station are you? You have two that you're in, correct?
I am in La Poderosa,
La
which is
Poderosa.
local AM radio,
Mhm.
and also in Radio Martí.
And you talk, and so many people come on and talk about their stories and what they're going through. And now with this new administration, and I feel I'm very hopeful as well. I hope I finally get to see what my parents always wanted to see, which is a free Cuba, right? And all those people that they could have rights and vote. And I know for a fact that the Cubans will make it, like they will transform that country to what it was before, because we
Marco
have that.
Rubio says that what is wrong that Cubans in the island cannot prosper, and once they're out of the island, they prosper anywhere. So because they don't have the conditions.
They don't.
They don't. And I'm very hopeful and thankful, of course, for President Trump for doing this, but also if there's a Marco Rubio in the position that he's in, nobody's going to fool him, with like what happened during the Obama administration, renewing relations at a time when Cuba offered nothing. They released one of the spies that was serving a double life sentence for his involvement in the murder of American citizens. He was released and sent back to Cuba.
It's a lot. It's a lot to hear. And I know there's more to come, and you're right in front of it. And you're doing a great job bringing all this information to all of us so we could learn more and know what to say and how to fight for it, right? Let me talk to you about your art events. So when is your next art event?
Well, I have something to confess. I have not painted since January when they took Maduro out of Venezuela. I mean, it's been hectic.
So busy. I know.
So
I know.
I have not painted since then. So well, I did Cuba Nostalgia in May.
Yes, I saw you there.
So, but I did more jewelry than
which was
than paintings really. Which what I was using was some of my paintings and a little medallion that goes on a necklace. But I have to sit down and paint.
Well, you gotta get back to it.
I have to.
I need to see more of La Virgen. And I also know that you do a lot with La Iglesia, La Virgen, de la Caridad, La del Cobre. Mm-hmm. You always go to the parade, when they
La Ermita, yes,
La
it's
Ermita.
Coming up in September. The day it's a beautiful day always, because it's it's a time when, I don't know, I love to see devotion. There's something about devotion in people when they, what's one of the most beautiful things is when you see a mother that just had her baby and places it in front of the Virgin at La Ermita and offers her baby to her and asks for her protection. I think that's one of the most beautiful things at La Ermita. And also, like, sometimes, not, we don't have that many now, but when rafters were coming in, you would just see them not even change clothes and just walk into La Ermita and thank the Virgin. Remember, the Virgin of Charity, La Virgen de la Caridad, is the only Virgin that has a little boat with 3 people on it.
Absolutely.
So there was something about...
Los tres pecadores. I always told my dad, can you imagine that the Virgin has a boat with 3 that they were lost in the ocean?
The only Virgin.
And look at what the Cuban people have gone through to get to this country. Some of them went on a raft to come to this country. How many did we lose? It's incredible. She was like, I feel like sometimes I say to myself, I think she was trying to tell us something, what was going to happen, but we didn't imagine something like this happening to Cuba.
But that's why you see on her day that a lot of people go to La Ermita. And another thing that's beautiful too, some people that have come together on a raft, they might not be related, but they make it a point to go together and thank her again. And it's really beautiful. I love to see devotion. I think
a devotion is, for me, one of the most important things, but also storytelling about it is the most, I think it's more important. I feel like as a Cuban community, we need to talk about more of these stories. We need to write more about these stories. We need to do more movies about these stories. We cannot stay quiet about what has happened to the Cuban community. I think we need to talk more about it. And I think through movies
I
and through
think we have
music.
talked a lot. I think people have not listened. Hollywood, especially. When Hollywood does a movie like the WASP Network blaming the exiles, and you have a movie like Andy Garcia's The Lost City, which is one of the most magnificent movies, the story, the photograph, the music, and it took him like I don't know how many years to be able to do that movie and then have no distribution because that's what Hollywood is.
But I think I think I'm hopeful for now.
I'm
That if we
hopeful too,
do,
but unless that changes, because the stories stay, they don't care. I remember one time, remember in the year 2000, the whole world was going to collapse, the computers, whatever.
Yes, I do remember that.
So this is New Year's Eve, and Peter Jennings is in New York, and all the reporters from all over the world. Well, one was in the pyramids, the other one was in Spain, and then it comes to the reporter in Cuba. So the reporter says, "We're here in front of the famous Tropicana." So Peter Jennings says, "Oh yes, the famous Tropicana. I guess all Cubans are celebrating there." So the reporter says, "Actually, not all Cubans. Cubans are not allowed in here. As a matter of fact, we had a nasty incident where the stringer we hired, when we went to the hotel to change before coming here, she was not allowed to go up with us." That would have happened anywhere else, and Peter Jennings would have jumped and said, "No, what? No." Okay, he went on. A few years later, I was in a panel with him at Miami-Dade College, and it was so funny because I kept hammering about everything, and he says, "All right, you Cubanized the panel." I agree. You Cubanized the panel. I said, I don't always get the chance to do it,
But you did it. I remember when I went to Cuba and I wanted to take my sister into a store and they didn't let her. And I was going to go buy chocolates because there was stores for tourism and there wasn't stores for them. So they thought I was born in the country, right? So I was with my sister and I was going to go in and they said, "No, she cannot go in." I go, "Go in." What do you mean? Like in my mind, I just didn't
You
know.
can't accept that.
I can't accept. I couldn't understand. I go, "No, because you're Cuban," and I'm like, "Yes, I am Cuban, but I'm an American." And my sister's coming in with me because I could bring anybody I want in the store. And she looked at me, and I had to show her my passport, and she goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I go, I was like, "Okay, lo que sea, whatever, move on." I go, "Glorita, vamos a buscar todos los chocolates, nos vamos a llevar todos los chocolates," which I'm trying to say now is I'm taking all the chocolates with me, like, because she would only eat chocolate once a year when we would go to go see my siblings.
But do you see how that's not normal? It's not.
It's
But
not normal.
oh, you want tourism in Cuba? Oh, fine.
But
you can go to the hotels, and then the Cuban becomes a third-class citizen in their own country. They cannot even go into a hotel.
And those are the stories, right? And that's what I was saying because I know that feeling. I was there. Claro, nothing compared to what people have gone through, but I got a taste of it being born in this country, going there and seeing that. So I just pray that this is the beginning of a good thing for the Cuban community, not only for us waiting for that dream to come true, but for the Cubans that are over there to finally have freedom.
For the Cubans that are there, look, now there's no electricity, there's no water. Before they had this embargo on oil, they were selling the oil. Mexico and Venezuela were giving them. They were selling it in Asian markets. So they were enriching themselves, and people still had no electricity. No. Now they have no water. You know what their businesses are? There's no such a thing as a private sector in Cuba. It's the same government. They have those places that power wash cars. In a country where you cannot take your kids to school because you cannot even wash their uniform. And they have that. Now, because they have no tourism, now hotels are open for Cubans with 10 pools. Melia advertises because Melia left for Spain. So now they're stuck with the hotel, and now Cubans can come in if their families in abroad send them the money. So,
so many stories, so many, that I hope we could get to share more and more so people can understand what the Cuban people are going through. And I want to thank you so much for coming here today and sharing your story and sharing La Virgen with all of us and the beauty of what she represents for us, which is freedom and hope. And I really appreciate you and thank you for everything
thank
you've
you.
done for
It's a
my
pleasure being
foundation.
here. I really enjoy being with you here.
And what can I wish you? Only bendiciones, protection always, and that you keep doing the good job of spreading the good news about what the importance of freedom is and giving hope to the Cuban community that you're doing. Not only the ones here, but the ones over there as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ninoska. And thank you guys for being with me here today. I hope you learned a little bit about Ninoka and what she's doing, how hard she's working to spread the news of what the Cuban community is going through, how much the Cuban community is suffering here. But she's doing it not only by working hard and spreading the news, but through her art. She's also spreading peace and love and kindness because that's exactly what I have felt ever since I met her. So have a blessed day, guys, and thank you for being here again with me today. And like I finish my show every time, keep dreaming. Dreams do come true, and keep hope alive, because if you don't keep hope alive, your dreams won't come true. So I am hopeful each and every day, and I'm more hopeful today after talking to Ninoka that one day we will see that beautiful island free. Have a wonderful day, guys. God bless.